talented songwriter, producer whose musical style ranges from house, dance, R&B, tech. She is pushing the boundaries of the music industry.
My name is Anita Traci.
Welcome, Anita. So before we start with loads of questions that I do have, I thought if you would like to introduce who you are and what you do.
Okay. As I said, my name's Anita Traci. I'm a producer and songwriter and occasionally a backing vocalist. And yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure what else you wanted me to say, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Now, I want to take us back to 2014. So that's a long way, but
Yeah, interesting you chose that year.
I know. I'm kind of going down in the history. Now, in 2014, you were at a songwriting workshop in North London.
I was.
And that's when your talent started to progress onto a songwriting development program.
Yeah.
With 2 R&B tracks.
Yeah.
So I wanted to firstly find out what made you decide you wanted to do this as a career.
Ironically, I started out in the musical path of just poetry, spoken word. I was never actually directly linked to music itself, i.e. producing. I'd always done spoken word performances, and then that led into me converting the lyrics into songs. And that was how I got involved when I was in a younger stage. I joined into a choir, and I used to bring my poems and songs to them, and that was how that started up to progress that. So I then realized I quite enjoyed the lyrical structure of the process of songwriting, and that was where I started. I didn't actually start wanting to sing or anything like that. So I got into that process, and then a long time, and as I got older, joined college, and then that came to 2014, where you just highlighted. I joined a songwriting workshop at I think it's called Chart House Music. It's now called Sappho Music Group. And I joined up with them, and it was literally a one-day workshop, and we just met up in a big group, and it was split into 2. And it just happened to be that the lady that was in charge of the group that I was in, was also a singer and producer and a songwriter. And we got into small groups within that group that we was put into. And it just happened to be by pure coincidence that she was the monitor of the group I was in. And I'd never been in a professional songwriting group prior to that. So it was quite interesting for me. She heard what I was doing. And then after the group had finished that day, she then said to me, what did I think of it? And I was like, yeah, I thought it was interesting. And then she said to me, do you have any other songs you've written? And I was like, no, just literal lyrics that have come out of my head to instrumentals that I've heard. I played something to her. She sang it as an idea. And it just went from there, literally went from there. And she ended up recording the first vocal of my first professionally released track. I didn't produce that one. I just wrote it, and she vocaled it, and it just rolled from there basically. But yeah, I never originally wanted to be a producer or a singer. I just wanted to literally write songs.
Yeah, and I mean, I love it how you met each other, and how then that's basically started your journey into this incredible industry. And I know you said when you were at college. Now, was you in an a cappella group at college?
I was. Yeah, I was. It was quite a short run. It done quite well for the short run, to be fair. We started again, which is quite ironic. I wasn't even supposed to be in the a cappella group. I was again writing for them, because the lead singer, who's quite well known in the garage scene, I won't mention his name, I won't do any name drops, but I was literally in the performing arts group alongside him, and he had formed with another 3 people one was a producer, an emerging producer, and another 2 of the ladies within the group were singers, and one was a singer-songwriter. None of us knew each other at the time, so we just kind of blended together. I met him in the group, and then he said to me, would I like to try and write something in a cappella form? I was like, a cappella, you don't really write, you're just sort of singing, you're going along. So I went to one of their meetups, and it just so happened that I ended up joining the group as a backing vocalist in alto form. And then I helped him to co-write the first ever track that we wrote, that we sang to, and we ended up performing it within the college. And then we ended up performing it it's no longer there, but it used to be called the Limelight in Leicester Square. It was called the Limelight Club, and we performed an a cappella track on the stage. And we ended up coming, I think we came, if I'm correct, I think we came second. And we basically got an award to be signed temporarily to another label, but that never transpired for various reasons. But yeah, so it was, everything has literally happened by chance with the things that I've done, which I'm extremely grateful for. But yeah, it was literally, again, by chance. And I loved the a cappella group. They were really good. We ended up recording 4 tracks, and we released one, which was very long ago, so I don't even think it's out anymore. And yeah, and it just kind of conspired from there. Sort of, yeah, people went their own way, and I just carried on musically in my journey.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing to know that, you know, even starting or coming in an a cappella group, you can easily then progress. And then, you know, as you said, you came second, which is still a massive achievement. And yeah, and it's something to we be really proud of. And now I wanted to also know, like, with your passion for music and the progress in music, what influences do you have that made you become interested in going to this industry?
Musically, I've grown up with a lot of soul, funk, R&B. I'll say the more classic side of it, classic R&B, sort of Motown records, and those sort of surrounding artists, and a lot of funk music, Detroit Spinners, The Temptations. There's quite a few others rolling around in my head, but I'll be here forever if I kept mentioning them. The Supremes were probably one of the original starting points, because one of my aunts was a singer as well. So I used to hear that quite often, one of the original Supremes tracks, Rescue Me. And I heard that one, and I started to like the rhythm of what I was hearing within the actual vocal techniques, not the actual song, but the vocal technique that she had. And then it got into The Temptations, and I started to get into kind of more disco, funk, soul. And that kind of, it sort of blended in. So I ended up liking a lot of R&B music from like the late 80s to early 90s, TLC, 712, 112, which was more 90s. And it sort of transpired from there. So my original path was actually more funk, soul, and R&B, even reggae. I used to love like Beres Hammond and Sandra Cross and those sort of artists. And it kind of rolled over naturally for me. So my first 2 tracks that I ever released as a vocalist, which will never probably be happening again because it wasn't my intention, that was R&B, because I do love R&B as a primary substance musically. It's just something I connect with quite a lot, with the emotions and the vocal delivery and the song lyrical content and meaning. So yeah, that kind of, yeah, it's more that sort of influence for me. And obviously Michael Jackson, Aretha Franklin, that's the more gospel element, because I was involved a lot in the sort of churchy sort of choiry based things when I was younger, like 8, 9 years old. I was in Brownies, which people back from that age generation would know what I meant. There was, I think, groups called Brownies then, Brownies and Guides. I was in a Brownie group, and they used to do a church service, and I used to join the choir when I was little. I think I was probably alto then as well, because I didn't sing high. I had high notes. I had a 2-octave voice at the time. I was quite young, but I didn't focus on that. So yeah, those influences have heavily progressed over the years, and I've gone into more sort of neo soul. I got into dance music more from my tutor when I was younger. Well, a couple of years ago, actually, not that much younger. And when I was doing music production, he was more of a dance and house music producer. So I started verging into that, where previously I know people had listened to a lot of house and dance music, Chicago house music, sort of the more early 80s and 90s styles, which was quite soulful, quite a lot more soulful in content, in sound. And it just progressed on from there. So my influences haven't really changed. I've just added more as I've progressed more in the field.
So as you said, Anita, you started learning music production in 2020. So did that make you evolved in your musical style, your musical taste?
Yeah, yeah. It's opened my mind a lot more to quite a few more different genres as well. And I've started to find interest in different artists that I wouldn't have probably previously. It's drawn my interest with the elements that are put together in music production. It's very different when you listen to music to when you design it, when you create it. And I learned that within the process when I was starting in the beginning classes that I had, which was putting different sounds together and how they went together with the different genres that you hear now, like funky house or soul R&B, hip hop R&B. It's only now when I've realized when I started creating it properly in sort of 2020, probably more 2022, 23, when I started to get bit more confident within my production technique, I realized how wow factor it was for my brain. I was like, oh, this is interesting, because some of the genres I did not think they would go together. I was like, that is not going to work. But if you pick out selective sound and put them together, like drum pads or synthesizers or vocal harmonies and things like that, it's amazing what you can get together.
Yeah,
Especially if it merges well, if it blends and marries together well.
And I think you really showed that in 2020. Now, this is where one of your popular track called house track called With You.
Yeah.
This was written by you, produced by Tom Hall, and this gained massive success. It was played in radios and stream of nearly 3 million. That must have been a really huge achievement.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I still feel proud of that now. I don't listen to the track hardly at all anymore because it was a while ago. I've obviously produced more tracks from then on. But yeah, for me, that was, as a songwriter, first and foremost, that was probably the significant path for me, moment for me of, wow, I actually can do this. This actually sounds quite good. So it was I don't, as they say, I don't toot my own horn often because I'm not that kind of person, but I feel proud of it. Yes, I definitely feel proud because I didn't think it would get the success that it did. So I'm very, it's my baby. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, and I mean, you should be. And I mean, collaborating with talented producers, such as, as I previously said, Tom Hall, Crusada, Solar Fringe, and many others. And then also releasing a number of releases, like featuring on a number of prominent labels, including Warner Music, as well as The Orchard. I think what I wanted to ask regarding this as well is like, what is the one thing, if you had to choose one, that you learned from when collaborating with these producers?
To be open-minded. To be open-minded, because you could work with 50 producers, you could work with 30 singers, you could work with 15 different songwriters, and the one thing I've had to learn, and I'm not gonna lie, it was a struggle for me at first, because I probably had quite a set mind in how I done things, where I wasn't working with others before. I had kind of, oh, I want to do that, I want to do this. I had visions of my own, but what I learned was, and it's a good lesson to have learned, and I always advise other people to take it on board, be open-minded, because even if the initial idea you hear doesn't marry along with your own thinking, be embracing of it, because it can actually help you to open your own imagination more. And the more you embrace things, yes, difference can be a bit scary to some people in that sense, but it's also really good for progression, because you're teaching yourself how to open up the process even more. And one of my songs that I produced and actually co-wrote was a lot better received than I thought it would have been, purely because of the person I co-wrote with. Because the blend was so good. It was just such a good connection with the songwriting process. They didn't realize where they'd written in the song, and they didn't understand where I'd written in it, because I never gave that away. I just said that we wrote it together. But that proved to me our writing styles were completely the opposite. We were polar opposites in how we wrote and thought. But I really respected them as a writer, because they pushed me to think differently in how I write, which isn't a bad thing, because it helped me to grow. And they appreciated me also because I thought so differently to them. And in their head, my process was quite unique. So getting it together, it just blended, it worked. And sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but that's what you do. That's your learning process as a songwriter as well. So I would say literally embrace change, because you never know where it could get you.
That's a great answer, you know, learning to grow off each other, and you know, and that's, yeah, I think anyone can do that, even if they're not in the music industry.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that's a really great answer. So thank you for that. Now,
Okay.
I want to go forward a bit. So, well, I want to go back to last year. So,
Yeah.
your solo release, Breakout, was released in 2023. Now, this was a deep bass track that you released. Now, this was named in the top 20 tracks of the year with Future Hits Radio. So, how did that happen?
I'm only giggling because I'm literally so proud of that track. I love that track. I have it in my playlist in my phone. That's how proud of it I was. I was never really into tech house before, and I'm not going to lie about that. I had never embraced it because I'd never really heard of tech house music. But where I was working alongside my tutor previously, the person he worked with as a producer, because they're a duo, he was also into tech house. And I used to hear quite a lot of different stuff that they would listen to, not their literal own projects, but things that they heard from other artists. And I was like, oh, okay, that's different. It's like I call it a light version of house music, a very light, like a daytime version of it, because it feels light when you hear it in comparison to house music and dance music, which is quite beaty and quite heavy and bassy. So when I heard it, I was like, I have never heard some. Okay, that's interesting. And again, like I said, I challenged myself because my tutor then said to me, what do you think of that? And I was like, yeah, that's not bad. It's different. It's different. I'm not going to lie. So then he challenged me in one of my actual tutoring sessions to create my own tech house track. And I was like, okay, okay then. It took me a while. It took me a few hurdles, a few bad bumps, and kind of listen to it and go, yeah, that isn't going to work. And eventually I came up with a basic demo, which was it was originally a disco funk house that I had already created myself, which was some very loose demo stems. And then I played it to him and he was like, that's not bad. That's actually not bad. And then I went to the other partner of the duo and said to him, how would he feel about helping me to mix and master it, like get it into kind of better structure and mix and master it? And he was like, yeah, I think that's got legs. So I then passed it to him to help me to mix and master it, to mix it down, sorry, and he done it. And what he put into it actually blew my mind, because I was like, oh my goodness, that sounds really good. He added the more bassy feel to it, and it just lifted it so much more. And I had a vocal hook in it, which I just added, and then he just tweaked it a little bit, and it made it just sound so good. So when I heard it back, I was like, you guys, what do you think? What do you think? And he sent me 2 different versions. Like, I really like that. I'm not even going to lie. I really like that. So eventually I said to him, do you think I should release it? And he went, why not? What's the harm? And then the rest is history. I literally sent it to a radio station, which you mentioned, and I didn't actually think it would even get played, because I thought, yes, tech house, they're probably not going to play that. And then they played it, and not only did they play it, it got so much love and support. And I was like, okay, we'll just see where this goes. I won't get too excited. And then I got a message, basically that he had been nominated within the Tracks of the Year nominations. And I was like, wow, okay. And I'm not going to lie, I still feel so flustered even now talking about it, because for me, that was one of the 2 most significant things I've actually embraced. One, having the success of the house track previously, and then this, which was my own solo work completely. I was like, okay, this is a proud moment for me. I mean, I've achieved something I didn't think I would achieve as a producer. I haven't been producing that long. So I literally am doing a virtual hug now, because that's how much I love that track. And it also made me start liking a lot more tech house as well. So yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of your popular tracks that you did release. And
Yeah.
I think you create something, you keep on creating something that is fresh and exciting
Mm.
to hear. And I
Hmm.
think that track really shows that.
Hmm.
And I know that 2024, you are still incredibly busy.
Hmm.
You've been so busy the last couple of years actually, but
Mm.
you releases a new song in 2024, that's Make It Right.
Yeah.
Now, for those who haven't heard it yet, what
Hmm.
can you tell about this song?
Um, it's different to anything I've done before. And I think I'd done that with slight deliberance. It was a little bit of a subconscious thing. I think I wanted to create something that was not too dancey, but at the same time kind of merged two. I could say there's probably two or three genres within it. And I still can hear it when you're saying it as well. I'm like, oh, I really like that track actually. I would say it's probably more of a sort of light dance sort of cross house track, and it's quite a repetitive hook in it, but that was deliberate as well because I didn't really want a whole song actual verse and chorus in it, so I just sort of echoed it through the track, like put it in a couple of parts in the track. The chorus doesn't have a vocal, so to speak, in it. Again, that was deliberate because a lot of tracks do have vocals in them, which is good because obviously it lifts the track up, but I wanted to be different. I wanted to do something where people go, okay, I'm waiting for the vocal. There's no vocal. I just want their imagination to go with it. I
Yeah.
want them literally to be singing something of their own in their head while they're hearing that particular chorus. And because it's quite piano based, it brings imagination up even more. So yeah, I don't hear many tracks that do that where you can just sort of go with it. Your brain just goes along with it as you're hearing it.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's listening to it, it's another wonderful track that you have made. And I think it's very different to
Mm,
sometimes what you hear now. And
yeah.
you, like as you said, you're waiting for the chorus, you're waiting for someone to
Mhm.
sing and that. But yeah, it's a very different track, but I hope everyone really listened to it because it's
Mm,
very good. And
mm.
now, unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I
Yeah,
really
that's
wanted
fine.
to touch on this.
Yeah,
Now, you do have something to look forward to as well on the 23rd of February. You
I do.
have a collaboration where you wrote the song lyrics. So,
Yeah.
could you give us a bit of an insight about it?
I'm really glad you've done this at the end because I've got to be cloak and dagger about this. The only thing I will say is it's it's how can I put it? It does contain a full vocal, and it is a house track slash dance, and it is uplifting. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, that still gives a bit of a clue.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been looking forward to listening to that, and I'm sure the radio itself will play and loads of people will listen to it.
Much
So
appreciated.
yeah, you are very busy then this year.
Yeah, I have other projects I'm doing as well. So yeah, this is about the music side of it. So yeah, but I do have additional projects going alongside this path as well. So yeah, I love it. I love the busyness of it. Everything's so different. So I love it. I always embrace it. I love to embrace change and just learning. I love learning.
Yeah, and I think that really shows who you are in the tracks that you do produce. It
Yeah.
shows like who you are as an individual as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, before we end this, I
Yeah.
do want to ask, where
Hmm.
can people like find your tracks? Like on Spotify?
Yeah, I'm under Anita Traci on Spotify, on Tidal Music, obviously Deezer and all of the other associated digital platforms. I'm on Instagram under neat t.73. I keep getting that the wrong way around, so that's why I had to be careful how I said it because somebody said, "Oh, it wasn't you," but yeah, it is that one. It's neat t.73 on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as Anita Traci, and I'm trying to think. YouTube channel isn't really that busy at the moment with that, but I'm getting there slowly. It comes under A Traci. I think it's A Traci 7. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I haven't been on there for a while. But yeah, I'm happy to send you the links to the handles, and then you can forward them if you wish to on the website. And yeah, I'm in the middle of progressing on my website, so once I do that, I will happily give the link to that. But yeah, please do go and take a listen to the other music I've done, because I've worked with some brilliant collaborators and some brilliant producers, and have released a couple of other tracks that I'm really proud of as well. So I appreciate everything though.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, as you said, like, you know, releasing loads of tracks with different artists, from Jenny Sabi to with My Mind, to also Bad Boy with Jodie Poye. And I think,
Jodie Poye, yeah.
yeah, and I think there is so much to get through.
Yeah, they'll have
because
fun.
yeah, you've had fun, and you've done
Yeah.
so many collaborations with great artists like yourself. And yeah, so I encourage everyone to just hit your playlists and just listen to them, because they are wonderful.
I just want to say, I appreciate everything you've done today. You've done some really good research, and I've really enjoyed the interview, and I'm very grateful to have been able to do this.
Well, it'd been lovely having you on the show, and yeah, I hope we can, I don't know, in a year, in two, you'll probably have even more stuff, and we'll have loads more to talk about, because you are very
I hope
busy.
there will be definitely more releases. I'm not saying when, but there will be. The most recent one will be this month. So yeah, there will be further releases though, definitely.
Yeah, we'll keep our ears perked up to when we hear your name. So thank you, Anita. Thank you for
Thank you
being on
so
the
much.
show.
Power Ace Radio.